Our next speaker is Judy Bonilla, Director of Education for Brain Fix Now, a brain healthy lifestyle program promoting the importance of starting brain health initiatives. You can read more about Judy and all of our speakers today in our event program that's in your gift bag. At this time, please join me in welcoming Judy Bonilla.
Welcome. Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for coming out today. And in the time we have together, I'm going to be sharing the 6 pillars of brain health. And it was so interesting listening to the doctor. About this time 7 years ago, I was an intern at the Navy Medical Center, San Diego, around near Balboa Park, if you know San Diego. And the population I was working with was senior wellness, military retirees and their dependents. And most of my class was 85 legally, 80 is what they might tell me. And I started reading all the material on dementia, with age being the #1 driver. And I thought, what can I do with this research? Because there is so much research about some of the risk factors. But when I looked to my community, there was nothing out there that actually addressed it. So that's when we tackled BrainFit Now, based on research on what has been identified as triggers. So again, the doctor did a great way of setting this up because it is truly a lifestyle. So, since it's a lifestyle, that means it requires practice. So we're going to do a few warm-up exercises. And I will tell you, this is, oops, there. Oh. All right, if I'm going to read this so that if you can't see it in the back, you'll know what it says. It says November 5th, 1955. The first exercise we're going to do is a recall. So sometime during my presentation, I am going to ask you to recall some of that data. So again, I'm nearsighted, so I totally appreciate when somebody tells me what's on the board. November 5th, 1955. The next exercise we're going to do is a response and recall. That is me uttering a sentence and you replying. So there goes that screen. So again, response and recall. I'm going to recite a proverb, and if you know the answer to the proverb, reply. Again, I'm going to recite a sentence from a proverb, and your job is to shout out the answer. When is the best time to plant a tree? The correct answer is 20 years ago. When is the next best time to plant a tree? The correct answer is now, today. Now, in that last slide, there was a year. Does anyone recall what the year was? Again, the correct answer is 1955. So, using the proverb, when would have been the best time to start a brain health program? 1955. When is the next best time? Absolutely. And that is something I really want to drive home. It's, you can't do anything about the past, but what you can do is chart a new future. So what we identified when we were doing our research were that there were 6 areas that kept repeating themselves in all the journal reviews, all the research that was being public. And they were on these, what we call 6 pillars. Reducing your stress. Or actually, I'm going to be, for once I'll be negative. Be stressed and increase your risk for Alzheimer's. Don't manage your health, be at risk. Sit down, don't get up, increase your risk. Eat poorly, increase your risk. Isolate yourself, stop learning, don't do anything, increase your risk. Isolate yourself, and for those of you who are introverts, you can do this. It's true. There. So what you see here is a pie chart. And the reason why we use this visual is that, oops. Yes, great, thank you. Is that each of those pillars, we issue the same value. Each of these are weighted in the same way because just like our fingerprints, they're unique. What you need to improve your brain health is different from the person sitting next to you. So the key is to look at yourself, meaning self-awareness, because this is where we saw people, I'll say, dropping off the habit trail, and that's what's so important about developing a brain-healthy lifestyle. I mentioned earlier about warming up, doing an exercise. I want you to have I'm going to start with the takeaways. 1, you are practicing brain health. You are starting a brain health practice. You don't have to get it perfect. What you do want to do is start. So again, perhaps one of these wedges is where your priority needs to be, but that comes only through self-awareness. Because what do we know? Our minds drive our actions. Some of us are still operating on what we might have learned as a teenager, as a 28-year-old. Now is a time to do an honest self-assessment. Don't be afraid. Like your mother said, you really are good enough. You are good enough. So this was fascinating. Again, we're looking at building or changing habits that you might have. So many of us grew up with 21 days to a new habit. Well, what happens if you if you didn't have a habit after 21 days? Did you read the book again? Oftentimes, we slack off. We started looking at research on habit building. The University of London found out that some of us can adopt a new habit within just a couple weeks. Some of us, it will take almost a year. The majority is about 2 months. So when you think of your brain health practice, you want to set it into context. It is individual to you. Again, just as your thumbprint is unique, so is your ability to adopt a new habit. So again, you be you, you practice. And no, you don't have to be perfect, but you do have to start. One of the first keys we identified was, one of the first pillars we identified was stress management and how much devastation chronic stress puts on your body and, again, increasing your risk. So when we look at the pillars of brain health, it is so much more. For some of you, reducing your stress might be singing in the shower. It might be practicing your putting. It could look like sitting down in prayer or meditation. The key is to find something you are willing to do, and we have hundreds of ideas for you. The idea is to begin a practice. For anyone with an Apple Watch, the best app on this watch is the Breathe app, where it allows you to breathe for 1 minute. There are some mornings when I use that app that minute takes a lot longer. But it is so easy. There is such a low barrier. And again, it is just a 1 minute inhale and exhale. You feel the vibration on your wrist. Again, it is a low barrier. So your first takeaway is explore what reduces your stress. And again, this is that self-awareness, because you know yourself better than anyone else. The next area, again, the doctor mentioned this, health management. Our health management portfolio is huge. We look at how much you are sleeping. Many of us, as we age, sleep 3 or 4 hours. No, you need about 7 good hours. For some of us, it's managing, or I'll say, I'm trying to think of how to politely put this. My girlfriend's father was diabetic. We used to say he was always playing Russian roulette because he was, at the time, calculating on how much insulin he should take based on what he was planning to eat. And sometimes he overcorrected, sometimes he undercorrected. The problem was he never managed his condition. Managing your conditions is huge. And again, if you're not sleeping, that's a huge health concern. If you're not taking your medication on time, that's another health concern. And one of the newer areas has come up around gum disease and oral care. But I was speaking to a few people in the crowd, and your takeaway for this, when you think about health conditions, is to have a medication review. Some of you might be familiar with this. It's when you visit the pharmacist. In that medication review, you are going to take every prescription you are consuming in the original container, any prescriptions or supplements you get from the mail, any tea you're drinking, anything you are doing to improve your health. You're going to gather that. You're going to call your pharmacist and say, I'd like to have an appointment for you to review my medication. And you are going to sit with him for about 30 to 45 minutes. Pharmacists now are one of our best friends because their job is to understand the drug interactions. So they can identify if maybe something you might be taking as a supplement is actually not allowing your body to process the medication you might be taking. In addition, they might also identify perhaps a side effect that you might be having for your condition, which might lead you to be a risk for falls, which we know leads to head trauma. Again, another trigger. So again, your takeaway is to go out, have a pharmacist review, but more importantly, especially now as allergy season comes up, and you start looking at over-the-counter medications. Which one is best for you to take? If you're not taking any prescriptions, great. However, I also ask you to talk to the pharmacist because you want to find a prescription that is not going to make you drowsy, behind the wheel, or as you go about your day. Physical activity. Again, I am right with the doctor, and again, he is using the same research I'm using. Again, what we're trying to do in the community, and again, I spoke to a couple ladies, we define a community as being you and one other person, or you and many. The idea is that you are accountable to someone else, that you can bounce ideas, that you can share your progress, your wins, your fails. It's all about learning. The power of 10. We came up with this Again, low barrier. The action, when you wake up in the morning, you're dressed and ready to go. Instead of going into your car or maybe going outside in the backyard, your mission is to walk out the door, maybe down the steps, down the sidewalk, and walk for 5 minutes. You time yourself. At the end of 5 minutes, you stop. You sight a landmark, you return home and go about your day. You have just added 10 minutes of walking to your perhaps already 30 minutes, 45 minutes of exercise. More importantly, you are reducing the time you sit. Now, the key to the power of 10 is that if you walked at 8, you might walk another 10 minutes at 10, another 10 minutes at 12. You are walking throughout the day. So theoretically, you might be able to add an hour of heart-healthy exercise at a very easy, low barrier. Now, recently, I had a allergic reaction, and I found I could not walk 5 minutes, and that was a tip-off, like, okay, something's wrong here. I could not walk for 5 minutes, and it gave me an appreciation for anyone with joint disease or arthritis. If you can only do 1 minute, that's fine. Again, you are who you're working on. So great if you can do 5 minutes. But if you can only do 1 minute, that's 2 minutes. Again, the idea is that you are doing exercise throughout the day, and most importantly, you're not sitting. And I'm super happy to report the San Diego Union just released a study this past week on the need for short increments of exercise. And they recommended walking. So again, that's power of 10, low barrier. The next topic I wanted to discuss is nutrition. Again, that's a wide umbrella. We look at nutrition as perhaps adopting a meatless Monday. Again, that's an opportunity for you to try something other than, I'll say, the animal protein you've been consuming. It look like a meatless Monday. It might be you becoming a vegetarian at breakfast. Again, you're looking at plant-based protein. The idea is to get as much variety in our diet as possible, because we know as Americans, we never have a balanced diet. And we know for sure that there's usually not enough fruit and vegetable in our diet. So the action item here, I encourage you to visit your local farmer's market, because that is so rich in brain healthy activity. First, you take your car there. Maybe you and a friend go. That's great, because that's developing some social connection. When you get to the farmer's market, maybe you park a half a block further, so you have to walk a half block more. When you get to the farmer's market, your job is to sample everything unless you're allergic to it. And when I say sample, I mean just like you do wine tasting. You take a sip, you might take some notes, and you toss it. If you don't like it, then you have the opportunity to talk to the maker and say, that's not my taste. I prefer something. Again, this is social interaction, and if you have been to a farmer's market, you know these individuals are proud of what they're creating. So again, the farmer's market is an opportunity for you to walk, to taste, to communicate, and more importantly, it's an opportunity for you to buy one vegetable, one fruit The choice is yours, but all you have to do is buy one. And ideally, it's going to be something you've never tried. For the longest time, I refused to eat peppers. You know, the green pepper. I was on a train in Spain, and this woman offered me pepper, and I didn't want to say no because I didn't want to be an ugly American, so I said, oh, yeah, sure. And so I ate a yellow pepper, and I thought, God, that's really good. I had been missing out on yellow peppers all my life. So I encourage you, go to the farmer's market and take home one. Learn how to prepare it. Your friends, your neighbors, family members might know how to prepare it. The idea is that you've created so many brain-healthy exercises within that one action. That is gold. The other thing I, again, truly appreciate our speakers, those of you who are here for the Emeritus Institute, the discussion was on lifelong learning. For us, again, the pillars are wide. The idea is that lifelong learning for you, if you speak French, Spanish, and Italian, might be learning American Sign Language. You want to do something that challenges you. You, in fact, want to do something where you say, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. That is actually your brain making new connections. That's a beautiful thing. Through lifelong learning, that's where you begin to get that cognitive reserve, which is what you want. So again, look at different ways. For some of you, it might be learning how to use your smartphone or your smartwatch or your smartphone that your children bought you, or how to set up your Alexa. Again, you want to look at it as a practice. You don't have to get it right. Know that each time you make a mistake, you're learning something. How many of us have said, I wish I would have known that? You could have made a better decision. Again, learning is how you create those connections. The last is something so interesting. We call it the social prescription. Again, individuals who are isolated, depressed, are at higher risk for cognitive decline. Thank you. Again, what you see are some of the ideas on ways that you can educate yourself. And again, these are low barrier. For some of you, again, you might be out in the community. I don't know if anyone's ever taken a MOOC class here. Absolutely. I went to Harvard. On MOOC, they're online courses that are offered from universities literally around the country and around the world. They are fascinating, they are challenging, and you can do it from your desktop or laptop. You don't need to go anywhere. And what's more important, they have forums where you interact with your classmates. It is a really dynamic way, again, of low barrier education or lifelong learning. Again, circling back to the Emeritus Institute, their programs fit the bill right there. And again, if you've always wanted to paint and never learned, this is your opportunity. Your family members will hang your artwork, whether it's good or not, because they love you. Again, I was starting to talk about the social prescription. There's a group in Laguna Woods called the Barbaras. It's a club of women whose names are all Barbara. They get together. I think it's once a month or so. I was hoping to meet a Barbara while I was here. They get together, have lunch, but more importantly, they also started doing laughter yoga. And for anyone who's ever done laughter yoga, it begins with being completely awkward, as an adult feeling a little embarrassed and shy, and then within 10 to 15 minutes, the person you didn't know is now your best friend, because you've just shared an experience of letting yourself be silly, letting yourself be vulnerable, and not being judged. The takeaway when you look at Social RX is to build your community. Again, community could be your next door neighbor, the two of you. It might be your block of neighbors. If you're living in a village, it might be those village members. Or you might have to get creative and join something like laughter yoga that decreases our fear of saying hello to somebody you don't know. So your takeaway is to look for a laughter yoga. I encourage you, and again, I'm forewarning you, you will feel awkward, you will feel uncomfortable, and then within 10 to 15 minutes, you're having a good time. So again, what you're looking for is to get out of your comfort zone and start looking at ways to build those connections. And again, that community might be where you get your coffee every morning. The idea is interaction. So I've given you 6 pillars plus a foundation, and that foundation is so crucial, that's self-awareness. However, what we do know is you have to have a plan. You don't have to do all 6 within the next 48 hours, but I challenge you to pick one of those 6 boosters and start applying it. And the way you're going to do that, oh, I've got a screen, yay. Please take a photo. You're going to ask yourself, what am I willing to adapt? Not change, you're adapting. What might be a barrier? We're adults, we're realistic, problems happen. And lastly, you're going to think about a solution. And here is where it gets richer. This is when you ask your friend, your daughter, your son, your ex-husband, what do you think? I want to take up painting, but I don't feel like driving there. Talk to them. What solution might be there? If you're like so many Southern Californians, we're very comfortable with our exes. We want everybody to be happy. So again, what you're going to do is put on your solution provider hat. So again, the 3, consider this adapting a new behavior. Recognize there will be a barrier. What do we know? None of us have ever gone to A to Z, or actually, I should say, none of us, or actually most of us, have never succeeded at plan A. Oftentimes, there's a plan B, and I always joke I'm on plan Z, meaning I've gone through the alphabet a few times. But more importantly, you want to keep the eye on the prize, which is the solution, because the solution drives your desire to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's in older age and have the best quality of life that you can have. So, as I wrap up, 2 takeaways. Last night I met with John Leland, who wrote the book, Happiness is a Choice You Make. He interviewed he did a casting call of several 85-year-olds and then actually selected 6 people. The research tells us we are happy in later life. 85-year-olds are happy than midlifers. The people he met with, again, different demographics, all were happy, and the reason why is they were grateful. Every morning, no matter what was going on, no matter what health condition, financial, or no worries, they expressed being grateful. So this morning when I rolled out of bed, I thought, I am going to choose happiness. I am going to choose gratefulness, because that's a practice too. So, what do we know? when is the best time to start a brain health lifestyle? Absolutely. Again, thank you for your time, and it was a pleasure to meet some of you, and I look forward to talking to you.